Thanks everyone for coming. My name's Amjad. I lead one of the product teams in ads, and some of you guys I've worked with and are probably wondering why I'm up here. Mike and I actually grew up together long time ago. Before he became the renowned explorer he is. We were doing timetables and addition and basic math together. And we've been talking over the last year about a time for him to come in and share some of his experiences with folks at Google. And I'm really excited to welcome him here today. And he's going to spend about 45 minutes with us, walking us through some of his recent treks. And then we've got some time as well for Q&A. So without any delay, I'd like to introduce Mike Libecki to you.
Nice. Thanks. All right. You guys hear me okay? All right, great. Well, thanks for hanging out. And for those of you kind of in on your computers or however you're watching, and then those of you in the audience, thanks for being here. So I'm, I guess one of the ways to put it is I'm first and foremost a father, but I'm also an obsessed / addicted explorer, climber, but specializing in first ascents. So the expeditions and climbs that I do are to places that no one's ever been to before, that are completely unknown, untouched, and that, exploration is still very much alive. And there are a lot of places where no one's been to or seen, especially that have big rock walls and towers and mountains. So I'm going to get more into that during the show, so I'm going to just give you sort of a little preview of what we're going to see today. We're going to a place in Antarctica that's incredibly remote, and it's, the nearest major city is about 2,300 miles away from this area. So it's one of the most remote, if not the most remote, big wall area you can go climbing on the planet. And let me just give you a little preview of that.
SWAT team, special weapons and tactics. It'll be spicy for sure.
It's a beautiful sunny day, dead calm, no wind, super dry. Shuttle a load across the ice cap, maybe t-shirts, bronze a little bit before we go home to the wives and girlfriends.
Loving life. Loving life, Antarctica, bitches! So this is a very unique place on the planet, but like I said, also for Antarctica. And I've done about 65 expeditions around the world. I think technically 67 if I really started counting them up. And Antarctica is very unique, obviously, because it's really cold. And I love places that are really cold compared to the extreme heat or jungle. You don't have scorpions or snakes or spiders. So it's really nice to be really cold. Even if it's minus 30, minus 40, minus 50, you can get warm and you can actually function in this type of weather rather than extreme heat. So it's a very special place. To go on an expedition like this in Antarctica, especially a place that no one has been to before, you can't just charter a plane and you can't just go down there and do this. It takes a lot of experience and a lot of research, but also permission. There's an Antarctic treaty, and you have to basically go by the protocol of this treaty. So you have to get permission from the NSF, the EPA, the State Department. I think I submitted 52 pages of what we're going to do there to all of these departments to get permission to go down there. So it's not just a free-for-all. There's the Antarctic Treaty is really taking care of Antarctica and making it, our last pristine continent, trying to keep it that way. So this was a really special trip in the fact that it's expensive as hell. And so I proposed this trip to National Geographic, so it's a big shout out to National Geographic for making the trip possible, because it's really incredibly expensive to go down and do this kind of thing. I love Antarctica because on most maps that you see, it's not even on the map. So it's just kind of down at the bottom of the earth, kind of forgotten in this world, but it's one of the most beautiful places I've been to. I've been down there 7 times. And some of the biggest rock walls, so these walls are not ice, they're not snow, these are big, huge granite walls that come out of the ice cap down. It's pretty spectacular, and not many people have seen these places. This was really unique in the fact that the team going down there, I got to choose the team and figure out who's going to go, and so I brought, on the very right-hand side is Keith Ledzinski. And if you check him out online, he's one of the best videographers on the planet. Capturing just extraordinary, the way he does things with time-lapse and video is incredibly cutting edge. I mean, it'll blow you guys away if you check him out, and that's Keith Ledzinski. Next to him in the red jacket is Corey Richards, one of the best photographers on the planet, National Geographic photographer. So Keith and Corey are coming down to capture the trip and get everything behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, so we can share with people like yourselves today. And then in the blue jacket is Freddie Wilkinson, friend of mine, and he's also my climbing partner. And he wrote an article for National Geographic magazine about this trip. So it was really based on going on this trip to do something really incredible, but bringing back the story to be able to share on a global stage with anyone who's interested. And then I'm, of course, on the left, and I'm the expedition leader, and who proposed this trip, who did the research, and had been basically planning this trip for 8 years until it finally came to fruition. So this was a really big trip, long time in the making. If you look in my eye there, you can see these rock towers reflecting out of my eye. And I had been to this area by myself 8 years previous. And so 8 years ago, before going on this trip, I was down there by myself and made friends with some Russians that you're going to meet here in a little bit. And they flew me around all these remote places in their plane. And I found these towers that I've been trying to get back to. So we finally got down there. In order to go to this area in Antarctica, we're going with a Russian company out of Cape Town, South Africa. And I thought this was really unique. If you see right here, you can see Antarctica on the flight board. That's not very common to be having a beer, hanging out with your friends at the airport. Oh, hey, there's our flight, Antarctica on the flight board. Let's go, let's get on the plane. And that was pretty unique. That's the first year that they put Antarctica on the flight board in Cape Town, South Africa. It was pretty fun. I'm sorry?
Is it a commercial flight or?
It's actually a charter flight, but you have to go through normal security now to get on the flight. So that was the first year they did that. The first time I'd been down here was 2002, and this is actually 2012 when this trip happened. So lots happening down there.
Their first stop, a Russian research station, Novolazarevskaya, or Novo, in Antarctica, where they'll catch a short flight to the Wolfat Mountains.
So we fly into this old Russian research station in Antarctica. And then all of a sudden we're really here. We're at the bottom of the world, and it's this totally alien place. It's like we've landed on the ice planet. I can't wait to get into the mountains. But it looks like we've got a problem.
So that problem is called katabatic winds. Does anyone know what katabatic winds are in here? Anyways, these are crazy, crazy winds that come from the South Pole and are pushed up towards the coast. These can be 80, 90, 100, 120 mile an hour winds. So we took this giant Aleutian 76 from Cape Town down to the Russian base called Novolazarevskaya. I mean, kind of like a modern day Millennium Falcon sort of aircraft. I mean, it's pretty cool when you're flying over the ocean to get to Antarctica. You can go to the front of the plane and just look out the windows, and it's just magnificent. But we were in Cape Town waiting for our flight. We were supposed to be there for 2 days. We ended up being delayed about 2 weeks. And so because the base, the katabatic winds were just scouring the base, and we couldn't go down there and basically land safely. And they land this monster aircraft right on the ice. That's the tarmac, is just solid blue ice. I mean, it's pretty incredible. But we did get to the Russian base, and about 2 hours later, the winds kicked up again, and we've got these 60, 70, 80 mile an hour winds. And this is just kind of around Novolazarovskaya. There's a lot of Russians hanging around, just kind of keeping the base going. The reason this base exists is because on this big Ilyushin 76 flight, you've got Germans, Norwegians, Japanese. A lot of different government organizations come down to this Russian base, and then small feeder flights take them out to their government bases. So it's basically a government-run operation, and we're just these climbers kind of hitchhiking on board to go down there. And for a while, the weather was pretty crazy. We helped out, shoveling and just kind of living down here at the base. And then we do need to take these smaller flights from the Russian base out to the mountains at this point. And this is really unique because they bring these planes, basically they're Basler 67s, and they're converted into DC-3s. They're flown all the way down from Canada through South America into Antarctica and over to the Russian base to meet us and the other government organizations to fly out to the mountains. It's a huge operation going down here. But we're at the Russian base, and I'm thinking, okay, I've proposed this to National Geographic. This is one of the biggest expeditions for myself and the team, but also for today's modern day and age of exploration. I mean, it just doesn't get more remote, and the logistics don't get more intense than it does for this kind of trip, especially for first ascents and vertical exploration. So finally, this is a really cool, pivotal part of the story. And one of the things I love about expeditions, just the mystery, you never know what's going to happen next. The pilots are from Canada, and there was this guy named Louis there. And technically, they're not allowed to fly these planes out if the winds are more than 20, 30 miles an hour tops. So we've got 40, 50, 60 mile an hour winds. We're stuck at the Russian base, and we're thinking, gosh, our trip's over. The expedition's over. One of the biggest trips of our life, and we can't even move. We're almost, delayed 15, 16 days at this point. Well, Louis, he said, hey, you guys, let's get all the gear in the plane. And if we get a little weather window, I'll try to take off. We'll get you out to these mountains. We didn't get a weather window. We had all these crazy winds, and he said, you know what? I'm going to get paid anyways. I could just be sitting here and do nothing, but I'm going to get you guys out to the mountains. So I think it was about 40 mile an hour winds, and Louis' like, we're going for it. So we took off. We were kind of freaking out. The plane's sliding all over the ice, and we got up in the air, and we were out to the mountains. So thanks to the Canadian Louis, this amazing pilot risking his life and, of course, our lives as well to get out to the mountains. We were all in at this point. So so we should just, the time is now. We go for this.
Here we go. Throttle up.
We decided to go for it and took off. It's a really alien landscape. We could be looking out the window at Mars, for better or worse. Hundreds of mountains that are unclimbed.
And we could go over there, but it seems like we've got some stuff we can get done here. Oh, look at that beautiful summit over there.
The feeling of isolation kicked in immediately. You're watching the last piece of comfort and warmth just take off into the sky. And then all of a sudden it got dead silent.
We built 6-foot-high walls, 360 degrees. We could not have flown in a smaller weather window.
And we knew life was about to be very different for the next 45 days.
asked for adventure, and that's what we got. And so it's only begun, man. So if you notice in these photos here, there's a lot of blue ice, and that basically is evidence of the katabatic winds. So all the other places I've been to in Antarctica, there's always snow, a lot of white snow. So you notice it's just blue, hard, clear ice, and this is technically one of the windiest places on the planet, where these katabatic winds just scour the ice cap. And so we've got some big challenges. It's one thing to go out and survive, that's no problem. But to go out and try to climb these vertical towers is a whole new equation in front of us, not just on its own, but with the katabatic winds. They're basically the biggest enemy aside from rockfall to go out and climb like this. Cold is one thing, you can deal with that, but the winds kick up, you can be frozen in a matter of hours if you're not prepared. And of course, with that wind, though, comes beauty and art of the planet. I mean, these wind-sculpted areas that we just walked around and were in awe of was incredible. And so imagine living for almost 2 months in temperatures colder than your freezer at home. So you kind of have to adapt to that. I have a lot of experience in the cold, and I think for a couple of these guys, it was kind of a big wake-up call with, yeah, it takes a little while to acclimate. And so you can see Corey, he broke his fork because it was frozen. He also broke his tooth. And if Corey was here, he would say, he always heard a banjo sort of playing in the background with that broken tooth. But he took a bite of a frozen candy bar and broke his tooth, which was, you got to be careful when you're in the cold. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to go down here to this mountain area, and we're going to circumnavigate one of the small sections of the mountain range. And the reason we're doing that is we're coming down to find the most remote, the biggest vertical unclimbed formations on the planet. But to do that, to climb one of these towers, yeah, there's these huge rock towers, but you have to have cracks and features to climb. So we're scouting out an area to actually find a route that we can actually climb. And there's a really cool way to travel in Antarctica. Usually you'll take your skis and you'll take your kites and you'll use the wind just to kind of cruise around, and we can just harness the wind's energy and cruise out around this mountain range. I've done this easily for thousands of miles just in my lifetime, kite skiing, enjoying, having a good time. But with these katabatic winds that I mentioned, we went out to set up our kites, and we had the appropriate size kite for the wind. It was about 20, 25 miles an hour. By the time we got our kites set up, we're hitting 40, 50 mile an hour gusts, which weren't right for these size of kites. So basically, when you're kite skiing, you have different sizes of kites for the amount of wind that you have that day. So if it's heavy winds, these really small kites. Really low 5 mile an hour winds, you have these big, huge kites to harness the energy. And so we just went for it anyways with the kites we had out, and it got really fast. It was pretty intense. So this is either working way too well or not working at all. We went for it, and it was pretty intense. Next thing we knew, there's a mechanism. You have a bar, you can cut the bar and the kite will go down. It's kind of a safety call. You can get out of the situation. Well, the winds were so crazy, I had to cut my kite down. I was still being dragged across the ice and had to cut loose completely. And here I am trying to capture my kite so we don't litter Antarctica. We're within the protocol of the Antarctic Treaty. But I did capture my kite as it was blowing off in the wind. Just holding it, and then just bam, it'll go down.
Well, okay. In watching Mike take off, as soon as the wind picked up his canopy and he shot out of there like a slingshot, immediately we realized this was a terrible idea. So we strapped our skins back on and just started trekking. As the sun was setting, this really heavy storm kicked in. Immediately we had to start working together as a team, digging in hard and fast. The only thing we could find was this really tiny boulder that we could take shelter behind.
Got about 3-foot drift in our vestibule, the front door of our tent that I had to dig out. The wind's super high and we're just trying to deal head down, sufferfest. Just trying to survive more than anything else right now.
The nice thing about doing this ski tour around this small part of the mountain range, this circumnavigation, if you will, was it took us about 7 days. It was about 100 miles. And we were able to acclimate and kind of get used to the wind. And I know a couple of the team members were like, this is impossible. There's no way we can climb in this kind of temperature and in this kind of wind. I agreed with them. It is impossible to climb when you're in these kind of winds because you cannot stay warm enough. You have to be in a sleeping bag or in a shelter to actually stay warm enough. But then there's this whole thing that happens on expeditions, and it's like, when life looks like easy street, there's danger at your door. There's a lot of mystery. Without mystery, there's no adventure. And we planned to ski around this mountain range, but we couldn't even do that because it all just ended up being that blue ice. Even with full skins on the bottom of your skis for traction, for backcountry use, even on the flats, we couldn't do that. So we ended up just having to walk about 90+% of the way with our crampons, which are the spikes on the bottom of your boots.
Day 3 of our ski tour, just getting ready to go crush and see what's around the corner on this huge, massive blue ice plateau. It's like being on the coast of a frozen ocean.
We were all shocked to stumble upon this Indian capsule out in the middle of nowhere.
You can see this survival shelter or this living unit was just bowled over by 150-mile-an-hour winds. Who knows, maybe stronger. Definitely makes you feel a little bit vulnerable, fragile human out here. We could just be taken out at any time, no doubt about it.
The weather here, it's raw and it's brutal, and it just beats the shit out of you.
On these expeditions, sometimes you just got to go for it. And Keith Ledzinski, who's doing all the videography here, he had never been on skis in his life. So he's never put on ski boots, and it was kind of the situation where it's like, just go, it'll be fine, you'll work it out. And of course, as some of you know from ski boots, you can get blisters really quick if you're not used to it. So this is all about, especially where we're at now, out in the field, this is absolutely 100% about self-reliance. So we're on our own out here. If we need a rescue, it's not going to happen unless the weather's perfect. I mean, maybe within a week, if we need a major rescue, we can get someone out there. But we're on our own. This is full self-reliance. Fortunately, this blister is pretty much the worst injury that we had the entire time. Besides some frostbite here and there, we didn't have any major injuries. So we left on the ski tour. We're gone for a week, just about 100 miles of cruising around and looking for these basically routes on these towers, which we did find one I'll show you soon. But those katabatic winds. I've made these wind walls on a lot of expeditions, and they've worked every single time. Well, we kind of left our camp set up a little bit inside the walls. I'm like, hey guys, don't worry about it. Everything will be fine. But these winds proved to basically, when life looks like easy street, there's danger at your door. Remember that again? That's going to come up a few times. Well, here's before, and here's what those winds can do to your camp, which if you like to we better like digging, because we're going to be doing a lot of digging. But this is, I mentioned self-reliance. We've got extra tents, extra stoves, extra gear. We've got it all, flagged out where if we did get buried like this, we were prepared for this. We thought about these things ahead. That, again, that 100% self-reliance is very real out here. So it was pretty interesting.
The crazy thing is it hasn't snowed an inch since we've been here. That's all wind-driven snow. So,
Savage, dude.
pretty savage.
Look at this. This part.
Fucked.
Real deal, man. Antarctica. It's Thanksgiving. We're so thankful for the sweetness of life, man.
This is Thanksgiving. Instant mashed potatoes with lots of butter.
We dug out, we picked up the pieces, and realized we had to find a safer base camp, a place that we could really rely on in the worst weather that Antarctica throws at us. Well, that one just has like a perfect cooking zone with, protected.
We had to move our camp over near the tower in the rocks where it's much safer, where we have a lot more protection from the katabatic winds.
We found a great spot here in the boulders, nestled living with the snow petrels and the skuas. Two beautiful spires right above us. The hour is almost here and we get to climb.
Happy birthday, Freddie.
It's my birthday and it's the first pitch of the trip.
Have fun, be safe, love life.
Yeah.
We're up for one of the biggest challenges of our lives to just get up to the top of this tower. It's going to be an incredible feat for us to all come together and make it to the top. Little rock coming. So we did just start climbing. Before that, we got our camp moved over. We got hit by another several days of wind and mayhem. And it kind of reminds me of, there's basically two different ways I see that you experience an expedition. And it kind of correlates to just everyday life. And as an utter optimist, the way I look at it is, there's joy. We have a lot of joy in life every day, the pursuit of joy. Well, you also have what's called pre-joy. And this is basically when life is kind of shitty and it's really effing cold. And so I look at it as you either have pre-joy or you have joy. And so if you have pre-joy, at least you have the word joy in there and joy is coming. But that's more strange mentality things from being on too many expeditions, I think. It's if you don't have utter optimism out there and you don't believe in what you can do, you're going to fail. If you're not having fun and you want to be there, you're not going to make it. And so without that utter optimism of pre-joy or joy, it doesn't work for me. But we finally did get to our new camp. As you can see, we're starting to climb. And we've just got endless variables and constants to this equation. And the most important part of this expedition, or any major expedition, is packing. So when you're back at your garage or your home and you're putting all this gear together, if you forget that one little tool, for example, to fix your stove, your expedition's over, maybe your life. So that if you forget anything like that, even the climbing gear, one little thing can disrupt the entire equation to that final product of the summit of the climb, the goal of the expedition, or just even coming home alive. So we started shuttling all the gear to the base of the wall. Behind the scenes were, days and days and days of just carrying heavy loads, getting up to the route. And we did find a really cool route, by the way. You can see down here is Keith Ledzinski walking, a little guy, and this is the tower that we chose. This is the biggest tower in the area. And the beautiful thing about this tower, as a climber, you always want to find these cracks on these walls. Like, okay, this is a beautiful tower. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of these towers around the world that are just incredible like this, but a lot of them don't have cracks. Right up here, there's a crack system that goes all the way up this tower. I mean, it's sort of like God used to be or is a climber in a way. Perfect crack system that goes all the way up. It was just incredible. And this is an example of sort of foreshortening. And you can see the top third of the tower, and Freddie here is on the first pitch of the climb about halfway up. So when you see things in the Arctic or Antarctic, like big towers like this, you don't have trees or houses or cars or anything to compare to. Sometimes these walls look kind of small and then it looks really big. Well, we realize we have a really long way to go up this tower. And one of the key points here for climbing in Antarctica, especially in this area of katabatic winds, is good weather. So we would climb for a day or two and then we'd get 3 or 4 days of wind and be shut down and in our tents. Well, this was a beautiful day, no wind. Of course, we have 24-hour sunlight. This is the spring and summer down in Antarctica. And so we'd climb for 25, 30 hours at a time, taking advantage of the good weather because we knew that horrible weather was coming back. And we're fixing our ropes anchor to anchor at this point because of the weather and the cold. We don't have a choice.
This tower has an amazing crack system going from bottom to top. It's the biggest, proudest, most formidable aspect of the mountain.
This is a kind of climbing that I've never experienced before. It's a kind of rock quality and featured face of rock that I've never experienced. So far, it's just been fascinating. It's been really scary.
What's up, rock?
Rocky Keith.
Whoa, dude.
What really concerns both Libecki and I is this huge refrigerator-sized death block about 15 feet above the belay. It's really is making for a unique, challenging climb to negotiate this kind of terrain safely. See what a trippy landscape this is?
Yes.
It's like Dr. Seuss rock. It sounds hollow, it sounds like it'll break. If it does break, you're gonna fall a long way because it's very hard to protect. There aren't a lot of cracks. It's really spooky climbing.
So it was really, really spooky to say the least. It was actually incredibly frightening to climb this kind of rock. Now, I think a lot of you are climbers or have climbed or know about climbing. If you fall on a rope, it's really usually no big deal. I mean, this is holding 12, 13, 14,000 pounds of weight, a lot of kilonewtons, force motion. I mean, these ropes are strong. This kind of climbing was different because of the rock quality. It was kind of like climbing on big potato chips and cornflakes. And then, of course, all the little edges of this rock is really sharp. So you don't want to fall and cut the rope. And that was on the back of our minds. There weren't going to be a lot of clean falls here. The rock did get really steep, and I'll get into that in a minute, and that made it a little bit safer. But the rock was so sharp because the temperature variance in Antarctica is so intense, and the winds here, so the surface of the rock is just really, really crazy. Again, it felt like being on giant potato chips, like on a giant cornflake, and it was really sharp on your fingers. It was really wild. Very raw, cold feeling of rock. So this is Freddie racking up here, and you're taking a lot of weight. You've got 2 or 3 layers of clothing. You've got jackets, big jackets over it, and you've got 30, 40 pounds of gear. I mean, everything gets really heavy really fast down here because you're basically never warm. You're just warm enough to climb. So when we're out climbing and out in the elements, we're just warm enough to function and climb. The only time you're truly warm is in your sleeping bag or in your tent back at base camp. But as I mentioned, the rock got really steep. So this wall was incredibly steep, and it was really beautiful because it got safer. It was more intense and exposed and scary the steeper it gets. But if you take a fall, it's going to fall out into space. You're going to stay away from that rock, which is pretty nice, actually. And this is a shot that, so I'm climbing here, and Corey Richards is above me taking down, basically the shots from above to kind of get for the magazine and share the cool ways that we do this. And at that point, I was like, we can't do this anymore. It's too dangerous. We've got to focus on the climb. We've got to focus on the objective. And doing a lot of the rigging and getting different camera angles was just getting too dangerous because of the wind, because of the rock quality, and we had to focus on safety and our goal ahead. I think for every day that we've been able to actually climb, we've had 2 days of heavy, strong, sort of katabatic winds. So it's been a real challenge just to continue progress up the wall. But now we're at a point at a really big natural ledge up there.
And it's within striking distance of the top. We guess there's maybe 800 feet to go.
We're going to move our camp up to sort of the high camp on the wall and try to get to the summit from there.
So life's about to change. It's gonna get pretty blue collar. Hauling our supplies up to that ledge will take a lot of effort. And then, living up there, it won't be as comfortable as down here in the boulders.
This tower is controlling us. It's commanding us, and it's demanding us to bring all of our experience that all of us have together and focus it on this route. It's commanding everything that we have to make this possible. So what we've been doing is we've been fixing ropes anchor to anchor, and we're about 1,600 feet, all of our ropes connected together. And this is called capsule style climbing. And we had to climb slow like this, as I mentioned, because we'd climb for a while, the winds would come in for a couple days, and then we'd have to go back down to base camp. So now we've hauled all of our gear up to on the side of the wall. We're going to live on the side of the wall until we can get to the summit. And we're living in this portaledge, this hanging condo, so to speak. And one thing in the back of my mind at this point is, if those winds kick up here, that hanging condo, that portaledge is going to turn into that ski kite, and it's going to be shredded. So in that equation that I talked about of an expedition, sometimes you just hope for luck because there's nothing else you can do. So we're committed to the wall, all of our ropes are pulled up, and we're going to try to go to the summit from here. Fortunately, we had a big natural ledge. A lot of the times, you don't get this big natural ledge to stand on. And to be honest, that made it really nice for going to the bathroom. If you can imagine living on the wall for a while, you got to do everything you do every day. And to be quite frank, taking a dump up there is not easy. But when you have a natural ledge, it makes it way easier than trying to hang in your harness. And think about this. Antarctic Treaty Protocol. We're capturing, containing all of our feces to take out with us when we leave from Antarctica. 4 guys for almost 2 months. That's a lot of feces, a lot of stuff to gather. And it's not easy when you're up in the vertical world. But fortunately, it freezes, so it wasn't too bad. So this was one of the most intense parts of the entire expedition. I'm climbing up above Freddie, and this is pushing what's called A3+, A4. It's an aid type of climbing because there's no cracks. It's really cold. Every few feet I'm stopping and I'm shaking out my fingers so I can actually feel them. And I'm using hooks on the rock. We can talk about this later after if you want, but if I fall, these pieces of gear are not going to catch me. And I'm going to go below Freddie and smash onto the horn that he's sitting on. So this was a really spicy type of climbing up here. And fortunately, was able to climb this pitch without falling, but it was pretty scary because if I did fall, it could have endangered the entire team, including myself, etc. But it was pretty intense time. And this is what it looked like leaving our portaledge camp. So it was really steep, and as soon as you clipped into the rope and you left the camp, you swung out basically in space, and you're looking, a couple thousand feet down. You definitely did not need coffee in the morning to wake up. You were just like, I'm ready to go, because it was quite intense. And you're thinking, well, at least I was thinking, okay, that rope is coming from above. If the winds kick that rope over on a little sharp piece of rock the night before, and I'm going up this rope to get to the high point, that rope's going to saw in half. So the way I see it, what we are doing is 100% mathematically safe. You just can't make a mistake. So that rope had to be placed with directionals and rope protectors and put in an exact place that could not move. And if we made that mistake to not do that, that rope would have been moved by the wind and sawed in half as we're going up. I mean, there's endless things to think about in this situation to make it 100% mathematically safe, which I have to believe that it is, to be honest.
Snow, sun, snow, sun. It's about what we're dealing with. For how serious and savage an environment it is, there is an equivalent beauty. Just looking out on this landscape of hundreds of mountains that are unclimbed. It never gets dark. The mountains are just 24-hour-a-day sundials, and the sun's just spinning around them. And there are these snow petrels, about the only living life down here, that just come in and hover and floating on updrafts around the tower. I think they're pretty surprised to see us.
It's really wonderful to work with people like Keith Ledzinski or Corey Richards who are capturing this and having a team follow along to document the journey. I mean, those are some of my favorite parts, seeing those snow petrels. I mean, they were so beautiful. This is a good example of what the rock was like. You can kind of see we're on smaller screens here, but Freddie's down here in the green belaying me, and I'm up here in the red in this crack. That's about 100 feet, so that's about half a pitch. And if you look the size of Freddie, you can barely see him, and look at this skyline here, you can see those potato chips and those cornflakes of rock. I mean, it really was just the wildest rock I've ever been on. And so this part where we're at here, we're just about halfway up this tower right there for some perspective. Now, as we're getting up closer to the summit, we're getting pretty excited because, okay, we might make it. The wind has been working with us a little bit. We might just make it to the summit. If we get hit by a crazy storm, we're probably going to have to go down. So we're thinking, okay, if we can get up in the next day or two without any wind, we're cool. But as you're getting up, the angle of the rock kind of kicks back, and we're pulling off hundreds of flakes. And it gets really dangerous. So if you pull off those rocks, they're going to go down on your partners below and kill them or cut ropes. So as we're getting up, I'm like, okay, guys, we can't continue on this route because so much rock is coming off. Someone's going to die. And so we're either going down or we're going to cut off and traverse and then try to get to another way. So Fortunately, I found some moves and we cut off to the right and we were able to get to the right ridge and eventually get to the summit. But it's kind of hard to see here, but here's Corey, Freddie, and myself. We kind of cut off right and then made a route to the right ridge. And that was really fortunate for us because I don't think we could have continued on had we not started traversing out.
Climbing the wall was an extreme technical challenge. It required a lot of gear, a lot of time, a lot of effort.
It was really enjoyable climbing on these big handholds and these big caves and wacos and kind of climbing through these jungle gym kind of rock. You can easily give it the standard ratings throughout climbing and mountaineering, but it goes above and beyond that. It's mystery because, you know, it's a first ascent. I mean, we climbed the steepest, proudest line on the tower. No doubt in my mind.
Yeah! Sick! Hell yeah!
Yo, 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 we're on the summit, we're loving life, and we're psyched. We're in Antarctica. It kind of feels like standing upside down on the bottom of the earth. Awesome trip. The life is sweet, the time is now, and we're hoping for a safe descent. Over.
Getting to the top, it was a relief because I didn't want to see all that time and effort that we had invested in the line and not be successful.
So fortunately, we did make it to the top. It was really a wonderful feeling to be up there with your friends. Now, Keith is not with us. Keith didn't go up to the top with us. He stayed on the ground to get all the ground shots, both photo and video. And so, you know, big shout out to Keith for staying down on the ground because I know he wanted to go up with us, but we all had a different role there that we were playing as this expedition team, especially for National Geographic to come back and bring this story home in the best way possible. This is a little shout out to Corey here. You know, I went down there with Corey. We had never met each other. We met for the first time in Cape Town, South Africa. I'd known Keith, I'd known Freddie, but when you go down on an expedition like this, you don't know each other. You can be chasing each other with ice axes trying to kill each other and be pissed off, or you can fall in love and make new friends for a lifetime. Because, you know, going on an expedition like this really is like a short-term marriage, or even closer. The trust and the bonds that you make out there are just, they're so special it's even hard to describe. I mean, you take them with the rest of your life with those bonds. And basically because Corey is like, here you go, here's my life. I'm trusting you with my life on this entire trip. And then vice versa. I'm giving my life to him, he's giving his to me, the whole team. If I make a mistake, that could cause his life. And so it's pretty intense out there. And Corey's, you know, up there following us up the wall with his camera, and he's the last guy coming up with all the rocks coming down. And so just a big shout out to him for, there's 3 rules of expedition. There's 3 rules of an expedition. And you go with friends, you go with friends, you go with friends. And it's always been like that. So it was nice to kind of step out of those rules and make a new friend and share those bonds with someone you didn't know. It was another mysterious part of the expedition. This is up on the summit, and of course Corey's like, yeah, we're up there, right on. And Freddie and I are thinking, yeah, this is really cool. It's been about 20 minutes. We've got to go down now. And we're thinking about that loose rock, the sharp rock. We're going to rappel the same route that we climbed to get down. So it's pretty intense up there. I, of course, always have my mask with me. This was Year of the Dragon, so the proper Chinese lunar year, Chinese zodiac year, however you want to explain it. But I always bring that year's mask with me, and it's just a fun way to honestly just remind myself and hopefully others that don't take life too serious, and let's all not grow up. Let's all keep our childhood in us and have some fun and laugh and really, you know, just don't take life too serious and have some fun with it and enjoy it. I mean, that's really one of the things we get to do on these expeditions is sort of be like a professional kid or something and just really go out there and live in the moment of now and celebrate life. It's quite fascinating, and I just can't get enough of it. This is a 360-degree view of the summit that Corey took. It's just a beautiful time up there. And you know, I talked about that wind. We got lucky. We had good weather for the last several days, and we haven't got hit by a storm, so we're kind of like, okay, let's not push our luck. Let's get down. Let's get out of here.
You get to the top and you're so excited, but you know you're halfway. The summit's on the ground.
We're packing up the air pig.
The air pig. Explain the air pig.
Well, there are pigs built for hauling and pigs built for airing. This little piggy's gonna go wee, wee, wee all the way down.
1, 2,
3.
Dude, that was a great toss, man. Like, the bag had a big rip in it already.
It was the perfect soldier for it, huh?
So I work with a lot of outdoor companies, and I have for a long time, and that's some pretty good product testing right there in such a way. We just threw down some of the trash and stuff that didn't matter if it broke. I mean, we took down all of our climbing gear and all the stuff that was valuable and breakable. We took it down with us. And so we got back down on the ground, and just a few hours later, we'd had that great weather without the wind. And as soon as we got back down to base camp, it was kind of cool because we got nailed by a crazy storm. And we're kind of getting comfortable thinking, oh, we made it, we made the summit, we're going to be able to get picked up, the plane's going to come out. And then these winds started kicking up, and we're thinking, gosh, if this goes on, who knows how long it's going to go for. Hopefully the planes can come out and pick us up. Looks like could get real today. Snow, wind, and catabatic mayhem. Trying to save the penguins.
Yeah, save the penguins. What a ridiculous scene.
It's horrible.
It's cold, it's windy.
A quick note, if this wind would have hit us, this storm would have hit us on the wall, I'm just going to say, quite frankly, we would have been fucked. And that's an appropriate word, we would have been hating life. And again, that luck, that part of the equation was...
It'll kill you in a matter of hours.
The wind has not stopped.
Catabatic winds, yo, it's getting real out here. Freddie's tent just got shredded. He jumped into Corey's tent. Man, it's getting real deal. It could get it.
It got under the floor and I felt it, and then it just like that. Whole tent flipped. And then, yeah, it threw me about 6 feet over a 2-foot wall. We've been pretty much tent bound for going on 4 days because of the winds. We hope we get picked up for Christmas.
So, this expedition was an incredible experience, mainly because of the times that we had out there as friends. And, the second best part of any expedition is being able to come back and share it with your friends, your family, with people like yourselves. And just, that magic and power and beauty out there that maybe not a lot of people want to go experience or don't have the opportunity to, but want to, see what's out there. And for me, it's an opportunity to hopefully inspire people just to get outside, maybe inspire people to care more about the planet and start thinking not only about caring about the planet, but what are the solutions for the planet and the people around the world, especially speaking, with and through National Geographic that made this trip possible. It's been a very selfish lifestyle of, if you're going to be a doctor or lawyer or whatever, you immerse yourself into that. You take your passion very seriously and you really immerse yourself into what you're doing. And hopefully, we can start sharing these stories on different levels and get people more excited about what's going on the planet, on a local level, on a global level, not just the environment, but also the people around the world that we can connect with. For me, this was the biggest trip, of my life, and one of the biggest trips that I could do in today's day and age for exploration and climbing. Yet by the end of this trip, it was like another training session for the next one. And all these expeditions become training for the next and the next and the next, and it really is this obsession and addiction to go out and explore these areas and climb. And one of the things I want to note on, aside from really trying to inspire people to just care about the planet more and to get outside more and put down your screens and your phones and just get out in the moment of now in nature, because that's what it does for me. When I'm outside and in nature in remote places, it really is that moment of now. This tower here that we climbed, this is the route that goes up, and then we cut across, and that was the summit. This was a really special expedition for me because I made a decision to leave college, my first year of college, and climb full time. And it was a really big deal for my family. What do you mean you're going to leave college? All I can think about is climbing. I just want to climb. I moved into my truck. I was climbing 300 days a year. The one main supporter that I had for this decision was my grandmother. And I went over and I said, all I want to do is climb. I want to move to Yosemite National Park. I grew up in Fresno, Clovis, with some friends here. And so Yosemite, the center of the universe, is right near us, and I started climbing. So I moved to Yosemite. I left college, was living in my truck. But my grandmother, she sat me down, she poured a couple glasses of whiskey, she kind of got really excited. And she said, God damn it, Michael, you need to go climb, you need to live your life. And she didn't get to go to school. She had 9 brothers and sisters, and she worked on a farm. And if they didn't work on the farm, they didn't eat. So for a long time, she was so supportive, and I kind of felt like I was living some of her dreams through my life. And anytime I got home from an expedition, I went right to her house, and she'd make BLTs, and I grew up with her, and we had this strong connection. Well, just before leaving on this trip to Antarctica, she passed away, and it was a big deal for me, and our family, and everyone, and it was so close. And so in the climbing world, you get to name the mountains you climb if it's a first ascent. So we got to name this tower Bertha's Tower after my grandmother, and it was just a very special honor for her that 20 years later, her encouragement to go out and pursue my passion, and she'd passed away right before this, and to honor her on this climb, on this expedition in her life. And that's one of the things I wanted to share with you, just how powerful these expeditions are. And I think with that, thanks for watching, and I appreciate your guys' attention today. So thanks.
Thanks, Mike.
Man, that was awesome.
Cool, thanks.
Thank you for coming. That was just beyond what I expected to come today. So
awesome.
Thank you for sharing about your grandmother. That's very touching. You mentioned the winds when they kick up, and when you're up on the mountain, that you're in big trouble, basically. So how do you, what's that process in your mind where you say, that's an uncontrolled variable, and you just decide to go for it, and knowing that, that if it kicks up and you have no control over that, what are you going to do? I'm just interested in your mindset.
Sure.
Like, how do you get past that?
This is a very unique situation for the wind, and I've been on a lot of trips with a lot of wind, but this one was completely unique. We knew that 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 mile an hour winds could come in and freeze you pretty quick. And so it was, like I said, the luck. And we were up on the wall, and we're like, here we are, let's go for it. Sometimes you're just all in, and you have to go for it. And that, honestly, that mystery is the adventure. With that, that not knowing and not understanding what's going to happen next is part of the drive, part of the obsession of doing this stuff. And so if it was a controlled environment and there was no mystery, I don't think that I would have any interest. So every trip, every time, going up on that wall, knowing these winds could come in, that mystery is the drive. But it also connects to fear. And fear is a wonderful emotion, feeling, powerful thing that you can experience. And it's a tool to keep us safe. Because if we're not scared up there thinking about it, we're probably going to get in a situation. So having that fear also keeps you safe in the same respect, that we're prepared. Okay, you guys, what are we going to do if this happens? If the winds kick up, here's what we're going to do. Here's our plan A, plan B, plan C. We're thinking about this, talking about it the whole time. And I guess communication is really what saves us if that wind comes up, that we're talking about what's going to happen. What's going to happen if this happens, if this happens. If I do fall and someone breaks a leg, what are we going to do? If the wind comes up and here's what we're going to do. And so, yeah, I hope that answers the question. It's a great one because it's intense and it's scary. But that wind equals hypothermia. So if it comes in, we're going to freeze really quick. And sometimes you're starting to get cold. You have to predict hypothermia before it happens, because then you can't move your hands and put yourself on rappel and get down. So, hey guys, it's getting really cold. Let's get down now back into our portaledge and get safe, because I can barely move my fingers. So you have to, without living in the now, you kind of have to think about what's going to happen next a little bit. Yeah.
So hi, I had a couple questions. One is, how did you get around? Are there good maps of all these places, and do you have GPS?
There are some good maps, Norwegian maps made of the area. Norway actually claims to sort of own this area in Antarctica, but no one really does officially. So it's sort of a world continent. But there are some good Norwegian maps that helped incredibly well. Go ahead.
Just curious about how belaying was. It's one thing to be climbing and moving, but to be at the back at the anchor belaying? I'm sure
That's a great question. So asking about how the belays were, and to be totally honest, when we're climbing up there, we're up in the vertical world and we're outside of our tents, outside of our portaledge, the belayer is the one who suffers because you're sitting there and you're freezing and you're kicking your feet and you're moving your arms. I mean, you're literally kicking your feet the whole time and moving your arms and doing all this. And the other guy's bringing up a thermos of hot chocolate so you can drink it and stay warm. I mean, it's a constant battle to not freeze. The climber, the leader, is moving and staying warm and generate that engine's sort of running and staying hot. And so that's a great question. Just the belayer is the one who suffers because of the cold. And also because of the loose rock coming down, and you're yelling rock a lot of times, and there's rock coming all over the place. And it's another luck factor. No one got hit by any of the big rocks. None of the ropes got cut. And it was, sometimes you just hope for the best. And I did mention it's 100% mathematically safe. I believe that because we made the right decisions and everything worked out. So you get me talking all day about this stuff.
You mentioned that you started your kind of career from climbing, like you left your college and started to climb. But how did you turn from from climbing to traveler to explorer?
So I ended up moving to Yosemite and climbing there a lot, and I really immersed myself in the passion of climbing. And living in Yosemite and doing all kinds of different kinds of climbing, I started thinking, I want to go to where no one's climbed. I think in human nature we're all explorers in some degree. We all want to find the unknown. We all want to do something different for ourselves. And I think the best way to explain it is organic passion. I don't know how I got excited about doing it, but I started doing climbs that were more remote in the Sierras, in the backcountry, and then finding out about these walls and towers that were around the world. And after my first trip to Baffin Island, which is up in the northern Canadian Arctic, and climbing these kind of walls for the first time where no one's ever been to before, it was like sticking the needle in. I mean, it was just like, I can't get enough of this. I was addicted to, I just want to go on these trips and I want to climb, and it became this obsession. And then I think following that true passion turned into, I could write stories about this and I can sell photos to outdoor companies, and there's a way to generate a living around this passion. And that was 20 plus years ago. And so it really is a huge shout out to the outdoor industry and to all the people involved in making the products and the people that enjoy recreation who are buying all these products. I mean, it's a big full circle of the outdoor world that we're all connected in. And so it's a great honor to be able to do this for a living, but also for a passion. But it's because of the countless people involved that really make it happen.
I hope this isn't too sensitive, but how much does an expedition like this cost?
Well, I'll give you a few details about this. So for example, I won't go into all the details of what we spent, but to get the plane ride down from Cape Town to Antarctica, that's $25,000 per person just for that flight. The charter flight from the Russian base out to the mountains was about $88,000. That's just the flights alone. That's not from the US to Cape Town. That's not any of freight charges. I mean, we had a lot of equipment. This is a very unique trip as far as, in so many ways, including how much it costs. So, and I'm going to come back right and say it, without the support of the amazing people at National Geographic, this kind of stuff doesn't happen, because I mean, we're just honored to be able to have done this and share this. But it gets expensive. But not all the trips are even close to that. But this one is very, very unique. Yeah.
Question you mentioned at the start of your talk about being a father. So when you're out there, what's that like being away from your daughter?
And I'll talk to my daughter about this because it's been interesting. She's grown up with a dad who is adventuring and gone quite a lot. And I've talked to her that anything worth doing is going to have compromise and sacrifice. And part of that for what I'm doing is, I've got to leave sometimes. But on a cool note on that, she is also becoming a traveler and adventurer herself, and it's pretty exciting. But her mother is amazing, and she's been incredibly supportive. Without the support of family and friends, none of this stuff could happen. So it's not just me or us up on these trips. It's a whole entire group of people, hundreds of people that make it happen. And I just want to make that clear how much I appreciate that. It just doesn't happen without all the help of tons of people. And but it's been tough as a dad, you know, having to leave and come back. But one of the cool things, and I'll bring this up, my daughter she's 12 years old. She just went to her 7th continent with me this last summer in Africa. She's been to 15 countries, and now she wants to start doing these expeditions as a humanitarian. And she's saying, I want to do these trips, and I want to come up with solutions for things that we can better on our planet and people. So it's really exciting to see her grabbing on to what she's seen growing up. It's really cool.
Great. Thanks again, Mike, for coming
Nice.
out
Thanks, man.
and spending time with us. And we'll get you to come back maybe every year with some new tales and
Cool.
new stories over here at Google. So thanks everyone for joining us today.
Awesome.